where we want to like start the conversation would really just be, what is shamanic human design, how it came to be, but also um like someone like me, like how would I even start applying it to my life?
Yeah. Well, shamanism has been around since the beginning of time. Um, Shamans were really the first medicine men and women of their tribes, of their villages.
Mm,
Typically, they had a very strong connection to spirit, a very strong connection to source. And so we throw the word shaman around pretty loosely today,
mm,
but the word that I actually am given is Pampa Mesayoke.
mm,
And a Pampa Mesayoke is a baby shaman in layman's terms. But the shamans or the maestros that trained me from the high Andes, the Quiro
mm,
village, they have been practicing this way of life, forever. And because they were able to go up into the high mountains, they were able to escape a lot of the invasions of the conquistadors. They were able to escape a lot of the persecution, where they were, kind of forced to change
mm,
their religious practices, if you want to call them religious practice. Spiritual practices would probably be
mm-hmm,
better. And so their way of life has been really sustained.
mm,
And it's really beautiful um, to get to experience that. But the original shamans were actually from Siberia. And so, anyway, that's been around forever. Human design is a blending of a lot of ancient systems
right.
that have been around forever too. And I couldn't tell you like how long the I Ching has been out there. Obviously, people have looked to the stars, to
Mm,
astrology since the beginning of
always.
time. Also,
Yeah.
you know, um, even the Bible talks about, you'll see the
Mm,
signs and the wonders, in the heavens,
mm-hmm,
and look to the stars for the signs and wonders. So that's been around forever. But astrology in the form of like who you are from when you were born, like you
mm,
were born at this exact moment in time, which has given you certain planetary alignments and has embedded you with
mm,
certain energies from those planets. If you think of that being very relevant to your life and understanding that, they've been talking about that always, but much more now in human design, bringing it into blending it with this I Ching and blending it with the gene keys, which I think the gene keys are like a modernized kind of version of the I Ching. But
mm,
Kabbalah is mystical Judaism that
mm,
has been around pretty much as long as scriptures have been around.
mm,
There have always been mystics, and so the mystics, are the ones that really do tune into those uh, astrological events, the moon,
mm-hmm,
the earth-based medicines, and so that's been around. And so all these ancient systems have been brought together through this man Ra Uru. I don't know I forget what his actual name is before he took that name,
mm-hmm,
but he, kind of downloaded, as many people do, this information and how to pull it all together. And so he pulled in, the Brahman chakra system, which, is part of your body graph, and you can see it as far as your centers go. He pulled in the Kabbalah, and so the body graph is in the shape of the tree of life.
mm-hmm,
And then you have your conscious and your unconscious gifts and gates and all of these things that actually pull through the planets and the sun and the earth and the stars. And so it pulls it all together, and it gives us this amazing glimpse at like who you're here to be, like who you came into human form to experience.
mm-hmm,
And so the shamanic practices are practices of really staying in tune
mm,
with the divine
mm-hmm,
and source. The human design practices are a way of like living in alignment
Mm.
with like your higher self and
Mhm.
what you came here to
Mhm.
do and to be.
Mhm.
And so the two really support each other because the shamanic practices help you stay in alignment,
Right.
and the human design practices help you understand yourself like
Mhm.
um, on a deeper level, like as a human being having a
Mhm.
human experience, as a spiritual being having a human experience. So when I guess when I started merging the two was really
Mhm.
when I've been doing shamanic practices for 12 years now. And I've been practicing Pampa Mesa Yoga for 12 years.
Mhm.
Um, Amber started really studying human design, and I had people prior uh, to 3 years ago when we started using this methodology, but um, who would talk to me about human design and would get really excited about it. But I thought it
Right.
was kind of like, you've heard of the Enneagram
Right, right, right.
or you've
Just
heard of
like just
Myers
another like
Briggs.
thing.
And
Yeah.
I was thinking it was like that. It was
Yeah.
more like just this other like
Personality kind of thing.
personality thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So I didn't realize how in depth it was, and I
Mhm.
didn't realize how many of the systems I was already participating
Mhm.
in using,
Yeah.
just in a different way. And
Mm.
so when Amber started talking, when we would have these long drives to New Jersey, and she would just get so passionate about it, and then I started listening to some of the podcasts that she was listening to, and this reading some of the information that she was reading, and I was like, wow, this is incredible.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until I actually like listened to some of the information about myself,
Mhm.
and it resonated so deeply, and then I thought, okay, maybe that's just a coincidence, right? Like maybe it's just a
Yeah.
coincidence, it's not really
You
real.
don't really know.
No, it's so then I looked at my children's, and I looked at
Mm.
my husband's, and I started to look at, my siblings and my friends and
Right.
my parents, and I was like, oh, you just, one of the things I love to say is you can't make that shit up, but you just can't. I could
Yeah.
see like I was just having aha after
Yeah.
aha after aha.
It's too specific and it's too like wait, how did they know that kind of thing,
Yes.
because even parts of myself that I don't even want to share or that I'm open about or proud of, it's like they knew.
Yeah.
So I guess
Yes.
for anybody like first learning about shamanic human design, or even the person who knows about the two, right?
Yeah.
I'll say that was my experience. I knew about the two high level, definitely incorporated a lot of shamanic principles, practices, and rituals in my own life and practice. But it wasn't until I came across Amber and Jocelyn, who had kind of married the two and said, hey, here's a way to essentially live the life you've always wanted to live, but you weren't sure how to access it.
Yeah.
And it was a really exciting experience for me, but for anybody who's watching, I think, it's important to say maybe where to start.
Mm.
um like what would be my first action step, if I was calling and asking you your guidance,
Yeah.
like where would I begin?
So typically with shamanic human design, we always start with serpent level work. Serpent level work is
Mm,
shedding and deconditioning.
mm,
So there's a lot of us that are operating, all of us are operating on conditioning and programming that was installed in us as children or maybe through education. And
mm,
so we believe that life is supposed to look a certain way. You need to work hard. You need
mm,
to, have, the marriage and the 2.5 children by the time you're age, 35. You need to become successful in a
mm.
career. You have to find, I don't know, love. And it has to be like this,
Right.
fairy tale, right?
Hmm.
And so, like, none of that is real.
And if I don't get those things, or if I don't do them correctly or well enough, or if I don't do them hard enough, like I'm not good, then the shame kicks in, like I'm
Right.
not good.
Right.
There's something wrong with me,
Ah, yes.
and that's devastating.
And so that's the first part, because when we can look at your shamanic human design, we can see how beautiful you are. We can see how powerful you are. We can see how connected you are, how instinctual or intuitive you are. There's so much that we can see, but a lot of times the person can't see themselves that way.
Right.
So we got to you know get rid of this identity, this old belief system, all of these things, or even the traumas that we're holding and storing that we keep responding and reacting to because of. We have to get rid of that. So that's what we call serpent level work. So the shamanic human design really takes you through the directions, and connects you as above as below, Mother Earth, Great Spirit, and helps you to stay in that channel. But the first part is really shedding the past. So you want to shed the past like a snake sheds its skin. We want you to do it as quickly as possible.
Right.
When a snake's shedding its skin, it doesn't pick it at its issues. It doesn't go, today I'm going to work on my self-esteem.
Yeah.
And today I want to work on, my control issues.
Yeah.
It just knows all of this is constricting it, and it can't grow.
And it has to come off.
It has to come off.
Now.
Like right away.
Not tomorrow. Like now.
No. And so it's right away.
Yeah.
And so we are going to help you do that through a bunch of, shamanic and energetic techniques. And when I say shamanic, I'm utilizing earth-based healing techniques, natural healing techniques. I'm trying to get you out of your head, not traditional talk therapy, into your heart, into your body, feeling where you feel it, more somatic, more connected. And then as we let go of those layers, those identities, those belief systems, we start to begin to then feel lighter, but we move into now the other things that are deeply affecting us, which is the jaguar work, which is our ancestral stuff, our lineage. I like to call it the issues in our tissues. Sometimes we're afraid we're going to get cancer because our mom died of cancer, or that, we're going to have scarcity forever because we come from a lineage that has, had starvation or not had enough food, and so a lot of this, the shit that we're literally here to clear is not even ours.
Right.
But we chose to come through so that we could be, the stop gate. We could be the cycle breaker. We could do the work of saying, okay, we're done with that lesson.
Yes.
We're ready to realize that the universe is an abundant universe, that God is merciful and benevolent and all loving and all knowing. So like we come in and we're like, all right, now what's my next work to do? I just cut the cords and shed the identities and shed the belief systems. Well, now you're breaking the cycles. You're releasing the contracts that have been binding your family, your ancestors, and there's so much freedom in that. And so that's the jaguar. Jaguars are tracking cats. So the jaguar hunts in the dark. It helps find where that stuff is lurking, and it drags it out and it kills it in one bite. It doesn't leave you in the place of suffering. It goes, this is no longer necessary.
And I just want to add my own experience, because healing is cyclical, right? As I have healed these parts of myself and generational trauma that I know has been a part of the tissue of my mother and hers and hers and hers, I've gotten to bear witness of that healing my mom.
Yes.
Like, and what an honor to know that my work, no matter how hard it is some days, devastating, difficult, I know, unspoken, energetically, I know that I'm also healing my mom.
Yes.
And to be able to see it in her life is personally one of the greatest gifts I've ever received from the work that I do.
Yeah. And it's so beautiful to see that ripple. And the Native Americans, the indigenous, really believe that it's rippling back 7 generations and out 7 generations. So the work that you're doing is like creating this amazing ripple through. And you can like almost close your eyes and like see it going to your mother and your grandmother and your great grandmother and your great great grandmother. And it's so powerful. And that's why, when I sing that song, I feel your hands on my shoulders. I really
Mm.
see that thread going
the,
back.
the line.
I do.
Yeah.
I
Like they're
see the
all
line, and
there.
they're all like hands on each other's shoulders, like
Wow.
all the way up. And it's
Mm.
just, whoa, like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I get to do this.
Yes.
Like this hard work that
Yes.
it isn't linear, it is cyclical,
Mm.
and there will be more things that come up, but you're now equipped to
Mm-hmm.
be able to see it
Yes.
clearly and go, okay, I see you. I
Mm.
know I need to, sit with this
Yeah.
and do some work around releasing this,
Yes.
but it's not hard anymore. Like it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to take years. Whereas before people would say, I've been in
Mm.
therapy for 10 years.
Yeah.
No, that's not what we want healing to be like. It's not that it's going to be over in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
That's not reality either, because we
Right.
have to sit in it and allow ourselves to feel it. And that's a lot of what we avoid,
Right.
is actually really feeling,
Mm-hmm.
whoa, how hard it's been, how painful it's been,
Mm.
how alone
Mm-hmm.
or isolated we've felt. But
Mm-hmm.
now we know we're
Mm-hmm.
connected,
Yeah.
right? So there's the truth that drops in.
Right.
So Jaguar is my favorite work. um, and in Shamanic Human Design, just to start to correlate,
Mm.
when we're doing the serpent level work, we're really looking at, like, what's your strategy, what's your authority, some basic level things that you probably don't really aren't utilizing in your
Mm-hmm.
life. And then we're looking at, when we get into Jaguar work, we're looking at, like, what is your, magic wand?
Mm.
Like, what are your superpowers? What are you here to do? What are your lines? Like, are you someone who's here to lead? Are you someone who's here to
Mm.
research? Are you someone who's here um, to go make and create your own things and then be called out to bring it forward? And so we start to look at some of that stuff as well in those components. But then we get into hummingbird, and hummingbird is the sweet nectar of life.
Mm.
And those are really your gates and your gifts and your incarnation cross and your epic journey. It's really like you're supposed to be having an epic experience in the human body. And yet, so
Mm-hmm.
often we're like so exhausted, we're so weighed down, and we feel like, we don't know what our purpose is. We don't know what we're
Mm-hmm.
here. Like, what's my gift to the
Yeah.
world, right?
Yeah. But indoctrinated into a language that says, I gotta get through this day. Like I
Mm,
gotta like like that it should be grueling or difficult or uh yeah, like I just gotta get through it, like kind of thing. Like, no, you actually need to and can enjoy not only your life but every moment of it.
yeah.
And really, like, isn't that the ultimate goal?
And that is a lot of the Jaguar work, because again, that's a lot of deconditioning, right?
Right.
Because our parents did
Mm.
toil, some of them,
Mhm.
full days, and their grandparents and their great grandparents. And so, but now we're coming into this time
Yep.
when it's really about our presence
Mhm.
and being able to return back to the original ways, which was to live in
Mm.
right relationships with the cycles and the seasons of life, and with Mother Earth and the Great Spirit, following the stars, and
Mm.
and following the planetary shifts. And so that's
Mhm.
like, how do I do that? Well, that's what we teach in Shamanic Human Design. It's how to return to that original state of being, and how to look at, like, what are my gifts, what are my desires, what are my ideal environments. Like the hummingbird, I love the hummingbird. It has a photographic memory. I think I heard you say yesterday, you think you have a photographic memory.
Yeah.
And so, like, it drinks the nectar of a flower and it goes from flower to flower. But if it ever drinks a flower and its nectar is not sweet, it never goes back to it again.
Mm.
We can learn a lot from the hummingbird,
Right. Right.
right?
Right.
But
Right.
we keep drinking poisonous nectar
Yes.
every day.
And touching the stove, touching this,
Yeah.
going back to I heard Hawk Sheila call it the emotional poison, right?
Yes.
It's like that for even for myself, an emotional a poison can be that addictive pattern of behavior, thought,
Yeah.
people, places, and situations that don't serve me
Yes.
and what make me feel like the hummingbird, right?
Right.
Free.
And if you are going to drink the poisonous nectar, you're not. So a hummingbird, its wings are so small.
Mm.
Scientifically, it shouldn't be able to fly. Yet it flies thousands of miles every year, and it does it one flower at a time, right? And it does it filling up its cup. And so this is where, like, if you're ever going to stop that emotional poison, right, you have to find where is the sweet nectar,
Right.
and you have to return to that day after day and continue to fill your cup so you're strong enough to actually, it doesn't matter how big your wings are,
Right.
or how much power you have, like, to look at you, right? Like, you don't have to be a bodybuilder to have an epic journey. You just have to have the strength, and you have to keep following the medicine, right? Drinking that nectar. And that's, it's really beautiful when you think, like, we're here to really just take in all of the beauty that's around us all the time. And yet most of us, like you said, are so busy in the hustle, caught up in the grind and in the hustle culture, that we miss it. We're just sleepwalking through life. So then we call in the eagle, and the eagle is really about learning how to use these storms in your life, because we're going to have storms, they're going to come in, but we're to learn how to use the storms of our life to lift us higher. Like the eagle rides on the storm and it rises above it. And then it waits it out, and it also knows how to course correct effortlessly. If it thought it was going over there, but that place is like, getting struck by lightning, it's not going to keep going that direction. It's going to course correct, and it's going to go to where it is lush and fertile and abundant. And that's, we can look at our life, our lives have lots of places where it's lush and fertile and abundant. And yet we're like, but I'm supposed to be, here in my life. I'm supposed to have X amount of dollars in my savings account, and I'm supposed to have, stock plan, and I'm supposed to have retirement funds, and I keep trying to, like, do it this way, and I keep getting battered by the storm because it's not for me.
Right.
And so we need to use those storms to, like, help us course correct, because it's not supposed to be like we're in a battle all the time. So in that work, in the hummingbird and the eagle work, we're really, like, diving deep into our personal design, and then understanding, like, our transits with astrology too, because not every time is the time to do something, like, and not every season is the season to be in action. Sometimes it's okay to rest more, to go within, to do a lot more meditation.
Yeah. And that comes back to learning how to be in my body and honor it and not push it beyond what its capacity is, what my type is, and that, like, and correlating those two things and being able to utilize them without shame or like fear or feeling wrong or bad, and being able to honor, you mentioned the seasons and the transits, but also what's happening cyclically in my body throughout the month, throughout 6 months, throughout a year.
Yes.
And like, how does that knowledge propel me in the areas in which that I need to focus, but also comes back to incorporating these small daily rituals, these small doable rituals into our lives.
Well, and it's interesting because you're talking about, like, the moon cycles, and you're talking about the, woman cycles. And we were just talking about this before, but, like, this is another one of those places where I say we weren't made to live like this, because we have to push through, and we need to be able to function. So we've created all these apparatuses for us to catch our, our moon cycle. But that was actually supposed to be a time for us to rest,
Right.
a time for us to go and, be, with our sisters in the red tent, or in the tent. It wasn't literally red, but to rest and to honor that need to release and let go, because we are such powerful forces,
Right.
and we're so powerful when we're on that cycle, and yet we're trying to, like, push through and do things that aren't really
do more, satisfy whatever, obligation, but if I know that about myself, I can still do what I need to do, right? Function in this world, but also take the time that I need to sit, whether it's in quiet or with family or whatever that looks like for the individual.
Or let yourself be cared for. Let someone, bring you food. Let someone take the child, or take care of the aging parent, or respond to whatever's happening over there, so that now, really, this full return, like, we should be telling employers, no, women get 5 days off a month on top of their regular schedule when they're bleeding. How many people do you think are going to accept that?
Slim to none yet.
Yet. But it's coming.
It's coming.
Yeah. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you definitely did. I think that where I would want to send anybody who's watching, who's like just starting to get this information, just starting to learn about practice, ritual, human design, whatever this looks like, or even just starting to meditate, like how can someone just finding this be supported, like what's the best avenue? I know that Amber and I talked about in our first intro to Shamanic Human Design, we talked about going to the ritualspot.com and pulling your free report, and even just familiarizing yourself with what this even is, number one. But also like scheduling with someone like Amber, like Jocelyn, with like a lot of wealth of information to help guide you, and personalize your journey. I think there's tons of like webinars, classes, and retreats that are phenomenal, but we want to actually like personalize your experience. So I guess like my question for you is like, where would you send someone? Like,
yeah, so I would recommend you go to the Ritual Spot. I would recommend you pull your free design, but I do think that even before you start to dive into that, you would call and schedule a free consult. We have a free consult with someone who can help you coordinate what that looks like. We do offer a 3-day virtual event for someone who wants to just, taste this, and it's very reasonable, but it gives you a good foundation of the kind of work that you would be doing. And so we could direct you to register for that. And, and as well as, if you want to begin that process of really like shedding the past and doing that work, the deconditioning work, then I would recommend that, whoever you talk to would put you in touch with, the two of us to get you on our calendar, so we could help you start that process. Yeah.
So I'm going to stop there because we covered a lot today, but please visit theritualspot.com to learn more information about virtual retreats, scheduling with practitioners, and like Jocelyn said, a free call and how to move forward.
Yeah.
But
with our soul coordinator.